second and fourth Tuesday at 3 p.m. Public hearings are held at 7 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV Channel 3 and will be rebroadcast on Thursday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisors meetings can be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Our meetings are closed captioned, so it is important for everyone to speak directly into the microphones at the podium. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisors meetings should contact the clerk to the board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off or place on silent. Item A is opening ceremonies. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Norworth?
Here.
Mr. Radford?
Here.
Mrs. Hooker?
Here. So item B is request to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda items. Is there anyone who wishes to request a postponement or changing of the order of board members? Any changes? Any changes? And Mr. Kaywood?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have two changes that I would like to make. After some additional research, we have recognized that on agenda item K1, we no longer need the Budget and Physical Affairs Committee, so we would like to remove that item. And then I would like to add a briefing item as item BA. And this would be a briefing to the board to discuss the Route 220 hotel/motel proposal, or the Apple Valley Motel, as it's known.
Are there any objections to that change, board members?
I couldn't understand what he said. Where is he amending the agenda?
So it's going to be BA, so right after this, it'll be the first thing, the
Okay,
next
thank
thing. Mr. Lubeck, any changes?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. So item BA is the briefing to discuss hotel project. Mr. Richard Kaywood, County Administrator. Welcome.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, members of the board. Earlier this month, both the community and the county learned of a planned project at the Apple Valley Motel on Route 220 in the Clearbrook community through media reports. So we found about this project at the same time as the general public. And since that time, we've received a variety of citizen inquiries regarding the project and potential impacts to the surrounding community. First, I'd like to emphasize that this, like all development projects, are private business arrangements between the owner of the property and the potential buyer or leasee, as the case may be. Now, the county is not party to these transactions or any other similar transactions for commercial properties. The county does have several important roles, however, and I'll go through those briefly. First and foremost, with any project that happens in the community, we go through a process to ensure that it's consistent with the underlying zoning. So in this particular case, our zoning official is analyzing the proposed use of the property to ensure that it conforms to the current zoning of the property. And if that use of the property is consistent with the property's underlying zoning, which in this case includes use as a hotel or a motel, neither the Planning Commission nor Board of Supervisors has a role in the approval or the execution of the project. If, however, the zoning administrator determines that a zoning action is required and the property owner wishes to pursue the necessary approvals, a public notice would be given, including notification to nearby property owners, and then the project would proceed through the normal process of rezoning, which would mean a stop at the Planning Commission, a public hearing, ultimately a public hearing and vote of the board. However, I want to emphasize in this particular case, if the use remains the current use, which is that of hotel motel, that process would not be necessary, as that's already allowed with the current zoning of the property. Regardless of the need for or lack thereof for a zoning action, all properties have to conform to the applicable building code and fire code. This is especially important at properties like hotels or motels. Same thing applies to schools and churches. And these provisions are enforced by our county building official and also our fire marshal. County staff has met with least of these ministries to learn more about the proposed project And this is to help and assist in making the determinations mentioned previously about the zoning status. And I want to emphasize both to the board and to the public, in all cases like this, we are required as staff by law to make determinations relating to the use of the property without consideration for external factors such as the project's desirability, or in a case like this, the community sentiment. If there is a zoning action required, both the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors can consider community impact in their decision-making. So that's where there's a distinct difference between staff analysis for a land use type or zoning determination. It is separate from what the board does. We look forward to continuing to work with all the parties involved with the project and the surrounding community to ensure that all county requirements are met. And that really continues on, right? So if a use does change, or there is a new project, or the hotel is reopened, our role doesn't stop because we continue to do routine fire inspections. If there are citizen concerns about a particular activity, we address those as we do with all properties across the county. I'd be happy to take any questions the board may have of me, but just wanted to give a briefing both to you and the public on this matter and how we're analyzing it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? Mr. Peters, Mr. Mahoney?
Mr. Kaywood, but based on the facts that available to us today, this use is a hotel motel. It is consistent with the C2 zoning district, and it is consistent with the Clearbrook Village Overlay District.
Yes, if the use is that for a bona fide hotel motel, that is your starting point, that would be allowable. It would only be if the facts would suggest a different determination. So I think we would start with that answer is it conforms until there's specific evidence that would lead us to an opposite conclusion.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters, any questions? Any questions?
I got a question.
Yes, Mr. North.
Do you know yet if the proposed use is going to have an office on site? And if so, is it going to be staffed during the day and night?
Yes, that was one of the questions we asked. We actually met with the least of these ministry folks this morning, and that was one of the questions we raised. And the answer was they do intend to have an on-site manager that would be there 24/7.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C is new business. C1 is resolution authorizing the application of a Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority Cooperative Partnership Grant in the amount of $500,000 from the Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority, and to agree to contribute $25,000 toward the project when applying for the grant. Madeline Hanlon, Assistant to the County Administrator. Welcome, Madeline.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hooker and members of the board. As previously shared with you in an email, I'm here today to share an Opioid Abatement Authority grant opportunity. Recently, the Juvenile Court Opioid Abatement Work Group, which includes judges, attorneys, and staff serving Roanoke County, the City of Roanoke, and the City of Salem, convened to discuss ways to aid families in each locality. The work group identified an Opioid Abatement Authority Cooperative Partnership Grant in the amount of $500,000 to provide 2 new navigator positions. The navigators will be independent recovery support specialists who will assist parents who have substance abuse problems. The navigators will help secure substance abuse treatment, counseling services, and more. This opportunity fits within the gold standard use of the opioid abatement funds. The work group has proposed that in order to make the grant application competitive, the localities contribute a one-time local match of 10% for a total need of a match of $50,000. The City of Roanoke has agreed to fund $25,000 of this with opioid settlement funding. Additionally, the city has agreed to serve as the fiscal agent of this grant and provide office space. An additional $25,000 is requested from the county. To date, the county has received $510,549.86 in disbursements from opioid litigation settlements. These funds are intended to be used for opioid abatement activities. If the grant is awarded, the county would be expected to contribute $25,000 towards this project. Staff recommends approval of the resolution authorizing the application of a Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority Cooperative Partnership Grant in the amount of $500,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Hanlon? I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Chair, I move the motion C1.
And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes, thank you. Item D, first reading of ordinances. Ordinance appropriating $48,113,501.44 from the Roanoke County Public Schools fiscal year 2022-2023 year-end funds to the fiscal year 23-24 Roanoke County Public Schools budget. Susan Peterson, Director of Finance, Roanoke County Schools. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the board. During the November 8th school board meeting, I presented the 2023 fiscal year audit, annual comprehensive financial report, and the year-end carryover appropriation request. These were approved by the school board as presented. By law, year-end balances of a school division in the Commonwealth of Virginia will revert to the government that provided it. The county's comprehensive financial policy allows the school board to reappropriate year-end funds upon approval by the Board of Supervisors. Attachment A to your board packet is a 2-page report of our year-end balance and carryover. Page 1 summarizes the results of the 2023 fiscal year and where the carryover balances are derived. Page 2 summarizes how this carryover translates into the 2024 annual budget. I am requesting the reappropriation of the carryover balances of $48,113,501.44 for the school board. Since this is not an insignificant balance, I would like to take a few moments to provide a little background on what all these balances represent. The school division operates 14 funds or separate pots of money. Although the school board could tell you I could take all day to explain all of this, I will spare you the minutia of the breakdown, and I will cover them in big groups. First, our main operating fund is the general fund, and for the fiscal year 2023, our surplus derived from revenue surplus of $978,433, $1.2 million from personnel savings, $188,408 from departmental savings, and $2 million from emergency contingency carryover. In accordance with the county's comprehensive financial policy and the school board policy, this $4.3 million will be allocated as follows. $195,458.99 will be reallocated for encumbrances in the general fund. $1,070,712.80 will be reallocated for the major capital that will be allocated specifically to the new Career and Technical Education Center and the 2 new elementary school renovations. $1,070,712.80 for minor capital that will be allocated to special projects. And $2 million will be allocated for the emergency contingency carryover. All the remaining funds keep their surplus balance from year to year. I will take a moment to discuss these. The school division operates 3 replacement funds. These funds are mostly supported by a transfer from the general fund. The transfer is incrementally adjusted as needed to smooth out the impact of high dollar and low dollar replacement years. The spending is directly related to a replacement schedule adopted in the annual budget. These funds include fleet, instructional resources, and technology. The carryover for replacement funds was $2.4 million. All grants from local, state, and federal agencies are included in the grant funds, and the carryover of $9.2 million relates to awards that will be spent in the next year and a half. Of this amount, $6.9 million is remaining in our pandemic awards and will be fully spent by September 2024. The nutrition fund must maintain its own balance, and its carryover is $6.8 million. All capital projects are included in a minor capital, major capital, or capital bond fund. The carryover of these projects is $15.2 million. $6.3 million relates to the Career and Technical Ed Center and the 2 elementary schools, and $4.9 million relates to the ongoing construction for William Byrd High School. Remaining balances are for other smaller projects throughout the division. The next group of funds includes health, dental, and risk. They are designed to receive premiums and pay claims for participants in our health and dental insurance or for workers' compensation. The carryover of this group is $6 million and is planned to be higher, so we have a cushion in case we have a bad claim year. Finally, the OPEB Trust Fund holds money for our retiree health plan. Like the county, we participate in the VML VACO pooled trust to set aside funds for future retirement benefits. The carryover accumulated is $1.7 million. On page 2, you will see we assign these carryover balances to a category in accordance with the original 2024 annual budget ordinance. I thank you for letting me present this and can answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Ms. Peterson? Yes, Mr. Mahoney?
Ms. Peterson, there's a lot of information here, so I just need your clarification. On the first page of attachment A, where you have where the school board has the major projects fund carryover, you have the building construction for CTE at $1.4 million. But in the footnote at the bottom, it talks about the unallocated major capital fund cash balances, and we're looking at an additional $2 million for CTE. So would that be on top of the 1.4?
That is correct.
Okay, thank
So it
you.
will be the $1,400,819 plus the portion allocated from the $1 million carryover from the general fund.
Excellent, thank you. That's what I was hoping, because I know we've been working on CTE for so long, and it's good to hear that we're starting to build up a good reserve for that. Thank
Certainly
you.
are.
Any other questions for Ms. Peterson? I'll entertain a motion to approve the first reading and schedule the second reading for December 12, 2023.
I'll make a motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Thank you.
And welcome back again. Item 2, ordinance appropriating an additional $4,966,171 to the fiscal year 2023-2024 Roanoke County Public Schools budget. Ms. Peterson again.
During the November 2nd school board work session, I presented a request for a budget revision to the 2024 annual budget, and it was approved on the November 8th meeting. The presentation is attachment A to your board packet. The request was made for 3 reasons. First, with the final adoption of the Commonwealth budget on September 14th, we expect to receive an additional $4.7 million from the Virginia Department of Education. $673,780 of this will be in the general fund, and the remaining $4.1 million will be in the grants fund. The All-In Virginia Plan is a Governor Youngkin's initiative that provides a one-time state per pupil funding for the implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act, learning loss, and to combat chronic absenteeism. The funds will carry over if the division meets required local effort and required local match. Our plan has been approved by the VDOE, and it is available on their website, and that is the majority of the increase in the grants fund. The second reason for the budget increase is to add $250,000 to the grant fund special projects, revenues and expenditures. This is an amount we set aside as to act as a buffer for the difference between the grant budgets and what the award ends up being. We used this balance to increase or decrease our budget as necessary. Although we set aside $400,000 for this purpose, the true-ups of Title I and Title VI-B grants for the current year have pushed us over our buffer, and we need to cover their additional funding and add a buffer in to get us to the end of the year. Finally, although not an increase or a decrease, we do request a reallocation of funds between the functional categories to reflect real operations. All of these changes are reflected in your board packet by functional category. I can answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Ms. Peterson?
I just have one.
Yes, sir. Mr. Norworth?
In that attachment there, attachment A, category 3, addressing chronic absenteeism. I see you all are going to address that with some monies too, but boy, those numbers jump out at you.
They do.
And I know that this is not just Roanoke County, it's
It's
around the
everywhere.
state and the nation.
It is.
My gosh. I mean, they didn't quite double, but they look like they have in some instances. I wish y'all luck with that.
Thank you. We'll need it, as will every school division across the nation.
Yeah,
'Cause these are not unusual.
I know, but just looking at them, okay, no more questions.
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion,
Can I preface that?
yes,
For a motion to approve the first reading and schedule the second reading for December 12, 2023?
yeah, that's right, Madam Chair. I'll move a motion
And is-
D2, to approve the first reading schedule, second reading for December 12, 2023.
And a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. Item E, appointments. Are there any appointments that have not yet been given to the clerk? Silence, we'll move on. Item F, the consent agenda. Is there any board member that wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? If not, I'm willing to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. And so we'll go on to G, citizen comments and communications. And Madam Clerk, so far I have 3 people who are signed up to speak. And so just a quick preface.
Some other people in the audience may have.
If there's anyone else who wishes to speak, now is the time to make sure you get your sign-up sheet to the clerk so that we can call you in order that you signed up. At this point, I'll just give a quick informational on how we do public comments. We are pleased that you're here and we want to hear from you. We appreciate it when you fill out this form to speak so that we can have a written record of who gave the comments. And we'll ask you to come forward when your name is called. You'll state your name and your address, and you're given 3 minutes to speak. There's a green light, and then it turns yellow when your time is winding down. And we ask that you would please stop when the button turns red, please. And there's a lot of emotion around the topic that I think we're going to mostly be hearing about. And please know that we're interested in hearing your comments. At the same time, if you were going to say something that has already been said, if you would please alter your comments or refrain from just repeating. So with that being said, we'll call on the first speaker, and it looks like that is Earl Dodson. Mr. Dodson, if you'd please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Earl Dodson, 5310 Foxton Road, Roanoke.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Mahoney. He came and spoke last night to our neighborhood group and was very, very helpful, very informative. I rise today in opposition to it's kind of a rhetorical fiction, the hotel motel down on 220. It's going to be a homeless shelter. And I rise in opposition to that. All of us recognize and appreciate and actually support, financially and otherwise, the need to take care of people who are down on their luck, who are homeless, who are going through personal difficulties. We support that. But I think any reasonable person would say that this is the wrong use for this building, given that it is 2 doors down from a county school, an elementary school, where there are several hundred students, and it's about a quarter of a mile away from a private school. I don't care about depreciation or land values or anything like that. I live close by. I don't care about that. I do care about the safety of the children at that school. I've got a granddaughter who's going to be going there. There are people in this room who have children who go there. It would be nice if we lived in a black and white world where all virtues were the same, but they're not. There's a priority on virtues. And the greatest priority on virtues is to protect children. I've been lectured to by people who are in favor of this. Virtue signaling, I call it. When you support any project that puts the safety of children in jeopardy, you lose the virtue, you lose the moral high ground. Now, I understand that there is little, perhaps nothing, that the board can do. Hopefully, the zoning authorities may find something here to stop that. I'm not optimistic about that. Maybe the building inspector will find that this old place is not going to be up to snuff, but I'm not optimistic about that either. And that's why I am making a public appeal to those who are promoting this project, to those who are financially supporting this project, to the LLC that owns the building, to stop this right now.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson.
Okay?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next up is Dawn Sandoval.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Dawn Sandoval, and I am the founder of the Least of These Ministry. In October, our nonprofit organization executed a lease on the property formerly operated as the Apple Valley Motel, located at 5063 Franklin Road in Roanoke County. Our organization has plans to operate this property as Suites by T-Lot as a motel model that is intended to offer affordable daily, weekly, and monthly rates. This motel will be available to the public, including but not limited to those who may be experiencing homelessness. There are plans to hire an on-site property manager that will reside at the suites. Shuttle services will be available to guests just like they are in other motels and hotels. Suites by T-Lot is not a free housing opportunity. It is not a homeless shelter. It is an opportunity for people who may be in financial circumstances that they cannot afford shelter to give them a place to stay for whatever length of time is permitted. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Yeah, I appreciate that. In this comment section, this is just, we take in the comments from the citizens, but Dawn, thank you so much. Appreciate your commentary. And next on the list is Elijah Wilder, I believe. Did I get it right?
It's Elijah Widener. I live
Thank
at
you.
4729 Whipplewood Drive. I am a very concerned citizen and a parent of Roanoke County. I have 4 children. All of them will attend Clearbrook Elementary School next year. I also work in Roanoke City. I understand the homeless situation that is going on in Roanoke City right now. There is a lot of self-inflicted wounds from Roanoke City as far as how they handle the homeless situation. When we talk about putting homeless people in close proximity to my kids' school and many kids' school, it is very concerning to us as parents. I also attend a church less than a quarter of a mile away from there too. It is extremely concerning that we could potentially endanger people that go to the church as well. I did have a few comments that I'd like to read because I have been going around since it hit the news, gathering information from other concerned parents. Sorry if I repeat myself of what the other gentleman said, but these were the top 5 concerns for us. We are worried about the safety of the students when homeless individuals are living in close proximity to the school. We are concerned about the potential interactions that could pose a risk to our children. The learning environment disruption. When the presence of homeless individuals can lead to disruption that interferes with the school learning atmospheres. These disruptions may include noise, loitering, or other activities that divert students' focus away from their studies. Such interruptions have an adverse effect on the students. Safety and security. Research has demonstrated a connection between homelessness and elevated rates of drug use and criminal activity. Having paraphernalia, weapons, or physical or verbal altercations can occur in close proximity to the school, can cause safety risk to the school and staff. Being that there is no public transportation, it is not on a bus route, there is no public crosswalks there, they will strictly be relying on them to get them from point A to point B if they do not have a vehicle. And I'll finish with this. There's also been numerous parents that have reached out to her to understand the vetting process and background checks that will be done on each individual that goes into that place. That has not been answered to anybody that I have spoken to. And I will continue to reach out, and I will continue to do due diligence on this to understand the background of this.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much, Mr. Whitener. Got one more. And this speaker is Mr. Gregory Matthews.
Good afternoon. I saw Paul Mahoney last night at my, excuse me, at my neighborhood HOA meeting. Ms. Sandoval did not show up. She was scheduled to. She was going to address the concerns of our neighborhood. It's proven very tough to get in touch with Ms. Sandoval. If you reach out online, they say to call. If you call, you leave a message requesting a call back, you don't receive one. If you go to a meeting where she's supposed to show up and answer questions, she doesn't show. There is frustration from parents at the local school, Clearbrook. I have 2 daughters that attend, 2nd and 4th grade. I'm genuinely concerned about the proximity of this homeless shelter and the lack of vetting that will be taking place. I understand it's not a shelter. It's a, whatever you want to call it, tomato, tomato. It's a homeless shelter. There will be no vetting process. The people that live there, will they be wandering around? They don't have a job. Maybe they do have a job, but the majority of them, it'll be most likely occupied 100% of the time. Had questions posed to me if I appreciated the previous activity that was at the hotel before it was shut down, and I don't. But I never in my wildest dreams thought it could potentially happen again. And as a community, we need to protect our children, not just my children, my children's children. This is going to be difficult to undo. If you look at the old San Souci apartments, that hasn't been good for Hidden Valley. We all know that. I was born and raised in Roanoke. I went to Hidden Valley High School. I went through Green Valley, Hidden Valley Middle. I joined the Army. I came back to Roanoke County because I knew I could raise my kids in a safe environment. And now we're bringing Roanoke City problems to the county. And there's nothing we can do about it? It just seems, I'm sad for my town. Like, I think we all should be. We can't put children at risk to help out homeless people. We can help out homeless people and keep children safe. And anyone that wants to tell you that that's not an option, they're being disingenuous. I'll give my time, I'll give some money, I'll be happy to help the city with the homeless problem. But bringing it to the children's doorstep and hoping nothing goes wrong is not a solution. In the big picture, it doesn't really take a dent out of the actual homeless problem that Roanoke City is experiencing. Many of these people are dropped off at Roanoke because we have a homeless shelter. The surrounding counties send their homeless here. It's never going to stop. So I just ask that we put the children in frame here. It's not just homeless. There's children involved.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Let's remember that.
Thank you very much. So that was the last speaker I had.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. So we will close the citizen comments period and move on with our meeting. Item H is reports. Is there a motion to receive and file the following reports?
Motion.
And is there a second?
Second,
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes, thank you. And the next item is reports and inquiries of board members. First on the list is Mr. Peters, Commissioner Peters. Almost.
Well, I was trying to find something that I was excited to take a screenshot of, and I wanted to bring it today. So if you'll give me just a half a second here.
Oh, I can take your time.
Oh, no, just kidding. So, last little bit, we've heard about Glenver, and Glenver, and Glenver.
A lot of good stuff.
So I would like to tell you that the JV football team at William Byrd has been undefeated this season. and I understand, I don't have the information, but I think the varsity team was doing about the same. I think they're heading off to the state.
91.
Yeah, so there may be a new sheriff in town when it comes to
And they played,
the football teams coming in here. So I'm just going to leave that there.
and they won their first playoff game, I think they did, and they're going to play Friday.
They play Friday night.
Bonnetot's going to come over and
Yeah,
play. So.
yeah. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there because we've listened to Glenver for 2 years. Anyway, on a fun note, starting this weekend, Illuminates will be at the Explore Park again. That has been a great addition to the Explore Park for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. And I think last year we had close to 60,000 people. And so I invite everybody to come out. That will be starting on November the 18th, and we'll go through December 30th. It'll be 33 nights. There's over 650,000 lights at Illuminates this year. So I would invite everybody to bring your families. It's a great time. Hope to see you there. Lastly, I think it's well known that I made a run for the Commissioner of Revenue's office, and thanks to the citizens of Roanoke County, I will now be taking that position in January. Therefore, I will be leaving this board effective December 31st. So I know I have more to say about that later on, but I know the board will begin a process to vet who will be my replacement. But anyway, I'm looking forward to my new role with Roanoke County to help all the citizens. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to take a few extra moments because there's been a lot going on lately. First of all, I attended the VACO conference with several of my colleagues here on the board. And I was nominated to replace Billy Martin of Bonnettot as VACO Region 11 Director. So I'll be serving on the VACO Board of Directors in 2024, along with others around the state. And that should bode well and represent not only this area, but the region as a whole. So I look forward to that. At VACO, we learned a lot, but I'm just going to share a few tidbits. Jim Regenbald, who is working for VACO now in physical analytics, shared with us that in the 24-26 biennium budget that's beginning to be put together in Richmond to go to the General Assembly, and the governor will present it on December 20th, has smaller carry forward balances available, since multi-million-dollar surpluses will unlikely occur again. And many things are driving some of this. K through 12 re-benchmarking changes may be higher than the recent biennium that we're in due to higher inflation adjustments, although lower school populations may offset that to some degree. Medicaid spending increases in the state are forecasted $175 million higher in 2025 and $539 million in 2026. Again, huge increases. So the expectation is to expect conservative revenue forecast due to a slowing economy and full implementation of previous adopted tax reductions. Those tax reductions, which some of us got checks in the mail and will change going forward, will cost the Commonwealth $2.4 billion in 2023 and $2.3 billion in this current 24. So those funds won't be available to carry forward into the next 24 through 26 biennium budget. The Commonwealth does have healthy rainy day reserve funds, and other financial levers can be pulled if necessary in case there's an economic downturn. And that's coming from the rainy day fund, to mention just one area. In addition, I want to mention that there are other anticipated budget pressures besides the K-12 re-benchmark and Medicaid, but CSA funding, which we'll talk about a little bit later on today, is needed due to cost and utilization increases, we're told. Additional state employee and teacher pay raises, Department of Social Service issues, state police staffing issues which continue, and I think there's still a shortage of 300 troopers. Here's another one, I-81. 150 million went to I-64, and we're still challenged on I-81 at $34 to $35 million a mile for construction cost. And the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority has a bogey of about $279 million. That's Virginia's share of their $750 million budget shortfall. So lots of things to challenge us going forward. While I was gone, someone took some notes on the Joint House Appropriations Committee meeting yesterday. Federal Reserve Bank states the economy will likely slow in '24. Businesses continue to prepare for a downturn in demand, while unemployment remains at record lows in the Commonwealth and around the nation. Virginia's at 2.5%, which is excellent. It's almost full employment. Virginia does trail North Carolina and South Carolina in employment growth, but continues to outperform Maryland. Secretary Cummings then addressed the Money Committee in Richmond and talked about the general fund here in the current 24 fiscal year revenues are ahead of projections. And that's what we learned at the last meeting we had, and I passed on to you. He does point out that revenue growth is going to moderate over the rest of this current year that runs through June 30th. And the Governor's Advisory Council will meet on November 20th to review revenue estimates, updated outlooks, and revenue forecasts that will inform the FY24 budget amendments, and the 24 to 26 biennial budget will be released by the governor on December 20th. Ann Oman of House Appropriations reported that the biennium will be met through with difficult carry forward balances. Concerns about structural imbalance are finally here in the budget. So look for a conservative, tight budget. Let me just sum it up this way. There is estimated $878.1 billion in available resources for $1.5 billion in high priority spending requests. So someone's going to have to slice and dice the budget. Going on to something local, Chairman Hooker, I think you and I attended this October 25th event with Jason Kube and learned a lot. I'm going to share a few things. When site developers are looking to locate businesses in Roanoke County, they look at a lot of stuff, but I'm only going to share a few. They look at the region's good libraries, walking trails, sidewalks in areas. They look at utilities, power, water, and sewer, and they want to see people moving into the area who are staying in the area. Where do we need to invest in the future to maintain this great place to live, work, and play? Good churches need to remain strong. Invest in CTE, which we're going to do soon with that $80 million project for our schools, and we're also looking at continuing good education programs. But the one thing that resonated throughout everything we heard that day at that panel was be proactive and sell your region. And our economic development department, they get that message, and I want to thank them on behalf of this board for everything they do every day. And finally, as Mr. Peters moves on to another responsible area, he can say, when he left the Board of Supervisors, we were proactive in economic development. And so that's your parting gift from me, Mr. Peters, and from the Economic Development Department.
Only took 10 years.
What's that?
It only took 10 years.
Well,
You know,
well, that's true, but you had some help along the way. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Mahoney, you're up.
A couple comments. Number one, I did have the opportunity last evening to attend the annual meeting of the Hunting Hills Homeowners Association. And so the comments board members heard from Mr. Dotson and Mr. Matthews, I think in that perhaps fairly summarizes most of what everyone else was saying at the HOA meeting. Want to also indicate that I have received a lot of emails and phone calls on this issue. I understand citizens' concerns, but I've also indicated to them that based on facts and the information we have available to us now, my conversations with the zoning administrator and the county attorney, this property is zone C2. Hotels and motels are permitted uses in C2, and this is a use that will be permitted by right. The next issue I want to talk about is, as Mr. North indicated, several of us were attending the Virginia Association of Counties annual meeting, and because we had 4 board members there, we kind of broke out and attended different sessions, and so we all looked at different aspects of what hopefully we can present to the General Assembly as part of legislative initiatives. And I think the 2 issues that I heard a lot about were some environmental issues. I think there are many environmental changes that are on the horizon. And second, broadband funding. Now, Madam Chair, you also attended a are you going to talk about broadband?
Go ahead.
There is about $1.4 billion allocated to the Commonwealth of Virginia for broadband expansion. And Mr. Bill Hunter and our staff, they're working on that. We have been somewhat successful in some of our grant applications, and I think we're optimistic that we will be also successful in the future, and we can address many of the unserved and underserved areas in Roanoke County. With that, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Radford?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd like to comment also, Mr. Mahoney, on the Apple Valley Motel. And while that is not in my district, I did want to go over there and meet Dawn and her mission and what she's doing. I did that last Saturday because my wife went there to volunteer and paint and work on there. And so I spent about 45 minutes. She has got a great plan worked out. And, you know, the people that, you know, she doesn't have to come to your meeting, but she's here, right here. You can meet with her after this meeting and find out her game plan. And I think it's very worthy to help that segment. She told me a story of a 71-year-old veteran that got evicted from his home, his apartment. He's sleeping in his car. So he needs some type of alternate sheltering arrangement besides sleeping in his car. And so I don't see him going across the street to Walmart. I don't see him going down to the school. He's got more important things to do in life. That's just one story. That she's got many more stories about the people that she has been helping since 2017. And I think it's very admirable of what they're doing. So I hope you get a chance to tell them, you know, the story, because it's wonderful, you know. And also attended the VACO conference, first one. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Definitely going to do it from now on. I joined the steering committee, the Energy, Land Use, and Environmental. So sort of a newbie joining that steering committee, and they have a lot of those issues in front of them. The one thing that we talked about for our legislative priorities were large-scale solar arrays, which we haven't had that come upon us. But we need to be aware of that, and we might want to look at that in the future. However, there was a vocal contingent that didn't want to do large-scale solar in their areas. Loudoun County, Fairfax, Albemarle County, those representatives voiced opposition to it. So it's something coming down the road. And then I went to another session where we talked about energy use and data centers coming to our neighborhood one day. And the Board of Supervisors member that spoke on that advised us supervisors that were there that we need to look at having some type of ordinance in place so when they come to us, because they're gonna take a lot of energy, transmission lines from the power companies, and while they're sort of a square building that just goes up to certain heights, they can also consume water. So a couple of things that we need to consider and think about with data centers. So I was hearing that from my brethren. And Jason, congratulations. It has been fantastic. I've been with you as a planning commissioner. I've been with you as a board of supervisor. And now you get to collect my taxes.
I get to assess.
Okay, assess.
Kevin collects.
Okay, very good. Anyway, congratulations and best of luck in that future, in that new
Thank you.
position. I'm
Thank
done.
you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to pick up where you left off, and congratulations to Jason, but also to Mr. Mahoney in his successful reelection to remain on the
Thank you.
board, and it'll continue to be great to work with you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve the citizens of Roanoke County and the Catawba District specifically. And just one quick note about that experience on Election Day. I was really pleased with the number of people that were coming and working the polls. And, some of us were aligned politically and some of us were not. But it was really a beautiful sight to make friendships and and just to talk to people. And it was a great interaction, and I know that you all had some of the same experiences, and I really appreciated those moments. You're hearing a lot about the VACO conference, and I'm just going to mention a couple of things real quickly. I'm on the Education Committee. I'm the vice chair of that committee. And so we start with compiling issues for legislative priorities to send to the General Assembly that has the power of all the Virginia counties that are in agreement for things that should be changed or looked at. And so on the Education Committee, the main thing, as you can imagine, was state funding and aligning that funding with the JLARC study. The difficulty of budget timing when the localities and the schools have deadlines that they have to meet, but the budget has been increasingly late. And then some elimination of funding caps on things such as support positions. That's a very inexpensive and timely, efficient way for schools to get more help in the education process. And then school safety, all those things were talked about. And here's one factoid that really discouraged me, and I really thought about not mentioning it because it's discouraging. But apparently, Virginia is now behind West Virginia and Kentucky in school funding. And so that was pretty eye-opening. On a completely different subject, this past Saturday, it was Veterans Day, and the Catawba Ruritans had a memorial garden dedicated to the veterans, and it was a beautiful day. And I was incredibly impressed with the number of veterans we have in the Catawba Valley, and there were probably at least 30 that came, and their names were announced in appreciating their current or their past service, but the garden is for those who have passed on and paid the ultimate sacrifice. And it was really a touching dedication, so glad that I could be there. There's something about bagpipes and things that just make it seem very solemn, but it was very respectful. 2 construction projects that I'm really excited about. I'll be glad when they're completed. One of the most often things that I'm asked about in the Catawba District is the West River Greenway, and we're going to finally get some progress on that. The construction is going to be probably a little painful and inconvenient to some of the traffic, but it's going to be worthwhile. And then the second thing is the 311 pedestrian bridge is going to be coming on soon, and we're really looking forward to the completion of that project also. So those are all of my comments at this point. Thank you for bearing with us. We had lengthy comments tonight. It's not always that way. Moving on to item J, we have a work session.
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
also extend congratulations to you and Supervisor Mahoney?
Thank you.
The gentleman down here kind of derailed my thoughts on that. I didn't want you all to feel like I didn't appreciate it.
He does that all the
return.
time.
It does that.
But I do want you to know that, a good board like ours is also one of the items that site developers look for. If they know there's a bunch of crazies up here, they're going to turn around and leave. We'll never know they ever considered coming to Roanoke County. So I think having a good board is a challenge, and it's a blessing, and I'm just thankful we've had that for a long, long time. I also want to just say something else, too. Finally, it's not just me and Dan O'Donnell going over, and Peter going over to the VACO. We now have 4 of us attended that, and we're involved in committees, and that's just a great thing. So whoever occupies that seat over there on the end when it takes Mr. Peter's place, eventually we'll get them there as well.
Sometimes
So.
that whole work thing gets in the way of those kinds of things.
And one other thing, the JLARC to report, JLARC recommended looking at a new formula for the composite index, and just to share in some of that excitement, I gave copies to some of the
I
staff.
noticed that.
So they can study it to see what implications might be ensuing with us and the schools.
Good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good luck. So moving on, one more time, we'll try. Item J, work sessions. We will be going upstairs for Mr. Lubeck's presentation of a work session to discuss Roanoke County's legislative program and preparation for the 2023 session of the Virginia General Assembly. After that, item K, we'll go into a closed meeting pursuant to the Code of Virginia, and I'll make the motion. I'll read through this, and then I'll be looking for a second. It's quite lengthy. I move to go into a motion, or excuse me, go into a closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711.A.1, for the board to discuss prospective candidates for appointment to the following authorities and committees: Board of Zoning Appeals, County of Roanoke Towing Board, Legislative Committee, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Advisory Commission, Roanoke County Pipeline Advisory Commission, and Section 2.2-3711A.5, discussion concerning the expansion of an existing business or industries where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industries' interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, namely in the Catawba, Cave Spring, and Windsor Hills magisterial districts, and Section 2.2-3711.A.8 for consultation with the county attorney regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice. Specifically, the county attorney will provide the board with legal advice regarding a zoning issue in the Cave Spring magisterial district, and Section 2.2-3711.A.1 for the board to discuss prospective candidates for appointment of a specific public officer, namely candidates to fill a vacancy on the Board of Supervisors. Is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes, and so now the board will recess to the third floor. Thank you for being here.